Welcome back. The FireZone show coming off of a week 7 loss to those Cincinnati Bengals, as my folks would say back in Ohio. The Bengals coming out on top of the Ravens 41-17. We're going to get into it, talk about the defense. Obviously, there were some big plays allowed by the defense in this game. So we'll get into all of that. But before we do, joined as always by Dennard Melton. How you doing, man?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Loving life, man. Loving life. Couldn't get no better.
The weather's been kind of crazy, but it was quite nice today. Walked around my backyard, soaked in the sun. It was beautiful. Like, you don't get those days very often in late October.
No, and this is my time of year. I love the fall, man. Fall is probably like my favorite weather time. I mean, spring is good too, obviously, but I lean towards fall because that's fire pit season for me. So I like to get out there in the backyard.
Fall is by far my favorite. Far my favorite season. And I can hang out in summer, but me in winter, no thank you. You can take that.
Yeah, nah, I'm not really a big wintertime fan either. Summer and fall, and like I said, spring obviously because the weather is still kind of mild too, is nice. Summer just has a different type of vibe. But summer, like especially summer nights, that just has a different type of vibe. That brings a lot of memories back for me of hanging out downtown DC, downtown Baltimore, different places where I lived when I was younger, just being out. Just being out
and about, man. You talking about getting back in the old days? That's like big wheels. Go out there and go straight down that hill. Don't know what's going to happen. You don't need no helmet. Let's roll.
Hey, just in the moment, just live
in the moment,
just living. Well, hey, we're gonna get into this game. Speaking of being in the moment, the Ravens defense found themselves in several moments. Not the kind that they wanted to be in terms of giving up big plays. I want to start with these. I want to open with these, and we're going to go through the positions like we always do. But I want to open with these just because it really was what dictated how the game went. These plays, these 5 touchdown plays, right? You had the 2 to the tight end, Uzama, right? You had the 55-yard. You and I talked about this, like not to take any credit or any shine off of what the Bengals did because they took care of business, but you got those 2 plays to Uzama, which were well designed, schemed up plays, right? Mm-hmm. You had the little first one with the little corner post, route off of the play action, and he gets downfield, makes a catch, gives kind of get off me to Marlin, and so right. Then he had the screen and go, which you had talked about this on previous shows when we talked about them having to defend the screen and how even going back to the Colts game, right, where they had the long one that they gave up to Jonathan Taylor, like teams were going to keep screening them, and then as they got a little bit better at recognizing and reacting to screens, they were probably going to go the other way, right? Mm-hmm. And somebody was going to hit him with the screen and go, and that's what he got.
It's been an issue for them for the last few years. If you go back, that particular play, they've been hit on a lot. And it's just the structure of the defense. Because if you're in a cover 1 6 or 7 times out of 10, you're gonna get caught because there's no one responsible when there is run action in front of you. So the way that teams have set up those screens is they put formation away to take the free safety away. So there's no coverage for anybody whose eyes are in the wrong spot. Yeah. And they've taken advantage of it. I mean, Chargers would have hit it for 7 if Chuck didn't get his hands up.
Yep.
And I think the Ravens adjusted pretty quickly because the Colts were just going to screen them out of the building. Right. So you're gonna see it. You're gonna keep seeing it until you prove you can stop it. And you're gonna come back, and Pittsburgh's gonna do the same thing. You're gonna see it with Miami. You're gonna see it with the Browns with Odell Beckham if he's still there. So you better be ready. You better fix the hole.
Yeah. Or even later in the season too. Packers are a big screen team. Rams will screen you. So that's kind of where they are right now. And like you said, the last couple of years, and then you factor in the missed tackles. That's the next play that I was going to talk about, the 82-yarder from Chase, which is really just a little in cut that, even if he catches the ball, okay, maybe it's 8, 9, 10-yard game, but you get him down on the ground and you line up next play. But, they end up missing a couple tackles. Guys kind of collide into themselves. And next thing you know, it's 82 to the crib. And, you can kind of look at that in each one of the games. And if you're the opposing offensive coordinator, you got to be thinking to yourself, at least as some part of your game plan, like, hey, we're going to do some stuff that, we're going to do our stuff, obviously, but we want to make these guys tackle. We'll make these guys tackle in space because they've not been doing it. So we're going to put in stuff in
guys
in space.
Yeah, guys need to stop trying to be heroes when they tackle. For some reason, everyone wants to be a hero. Everybody wants to make the forced fumble, the spectacular play. Just get the man on the ground and go play. And I think you can do all the tackling you want in practice. You can fix technique, but at the end of the day, tackling is a mindset. You got to understand what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. If you have been groomed mentally to say, get this man on the ground, you're going to get this man on the ground. It seems like, and I'm not just picking on the Ravens, I think tackling in general in the NFL has been horrible. I think too many guys have been here, trying to do hero tacklers, making a lot of business decisions out there. So, I think it there's a lot of that going on. I think it stems from the college game where you put a bunch of safeties out on the field as linebackers and you can outrun everybody. So you don't have to worry about, using your hands, using your arms properly, getting around your hips. So you get into the NFL, you can't run around guys anymore. You got to use your hands. You got to get your hips in the right place or you're just not going to have the leverage. And I don't think those guys have been taught in college how to properly tackle. So in the NFL, you don't have time for that. I remember Seattle actually had like a tackling school for like a week or two during minicamp to redo their entire tackling system.
Yeah, they brought that hawk tackle in.
Yeah, and I mean, since then, I've never heard Seattle have issues tackling.
Yeah. What's crazy about it to me is, so two things. So first, you talked about people, trying to make the hero tackle, and it's like literally trying to be a superhero, like Superman, like flying.
Yeah,
that position.
Yes,
you out with your head like that.
Yes.
It's like literally trying to be a hero. And then the other thing, and when I say it's crazy, this is the part that kind of gets me the most is like, some of this stuff goes back to like, for those of us who play football, like you can even go back to like youth league football.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing where your help is, right? And you think about how you get taught like very early, stage, like just fundamentals of like, hey, we're gonna vice tackle, right? It's not sometimes it's you out there in space and you're by yourself and you just gotta get done what you gotta get done. But a lot of times it's about playing towards your help and say, hey, we're gonna vice this dude. I'm outside, you're inside, we got a third guy coming in to get the ball. It's just basic stuff like that. And you're not really seeing that at times from them. You're like you said, you're seeing guys kind of all over the place. Everybody's trying to be the one to make the play instead of saying, hey, you do your job, I do my job. We get this guy on the ground, we go line up, play the next down. And it's Harb said it. It's like, look, until we do these little fundamental things, we're just gonna be average. Basically, we're gonna be an average defense.
It's gonna be an average defense. And that kind of goes with
the average.
Yeah. And it kind of goes with, we had the conversation about Buffalo and how their defense is structured. And then it's kind of a great kind of parallel between the two. You have Buffalo, who's very structured, and what I mean by that is everything is spilled. Everything is you attack with your inside shoulder, outside shoulder, arm free. Like whenever you attack something, you want to make sure you spill it out. So if run play is going to our left, you want to keep your left hand free, but you want to attack, off center of whoever your attack point is, so you can keep your arms free. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows everybody's got their gap. That's why I always say the run game is like a dance, because everybody's kind of flowing. Everybody knows what the next guy's doing. Everybody knows what the call is. The main part of the defense is everything gets spilled to the outside. Everything is spilled to the outside. Mindset, going through it. Now we get to the Ravens. This is why I say they've become a scheme defense, which is a problem in some instance. Like against average teams, you're going to see what the Ravens normally do. Against good teams like the Bengals, you're going to see this unless they're able to make some plays and the offense can keep up. When you're not structured defensively in terms of everybody on the same page and your defensive responsibilities change from call to call, there's no continuity. There's no, hey, I know this guy's going to be there because we run this play this way. It seems like to me, as I watch the Ravens and understand their defense, it could be as simple as someone else making a check before the play calls that you have to face your guy up differently in the hole because he's fitting in differently because of the formation. And when you have young guys, that is very hard to convey. And it's very hard to get on the same page, not only just young guys, but old guys, because you just, what's the call? Well, I got to process the information. Okay, there's this formation. This is going on. Okay, this guy's, and then you may fit wrong, and next thing you know, you got Brandon Williams on skates. You got a P-Ron run 46 yards that I think he's still running. So when we compare Ravens defenses now and then back when Dean Pease, and everybody hates Dean Pease, everybody thinks he's the Antichrist, the defense sometimes. What Dean Pease gave the defense and why they were so good in the red zone, structure. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what's going on. We're dropping in zones. I know that I'm passing off number 3 because I know my safety is going to be there because we've ran zone in the red zone every day in practice for the last 10 years. We know what we're doing. I know what that guy's going to do. Now, all of a sudden, I got this safety rolling down. I got this safety coming. I got a corner going over the top here. I got a linebacker who's looking in the backfield like, well, I got to watch the running back. And the next thing you know, there's a motion come this way, and it flips the formation. So now that flips your call. So it's just like all this is going on. In the meantime, you could just sit in zone and just let everything unfold. And that's what happens with Buffalo, which is just let what defensive coordinators say, just let the unfold. And normally they'll come right to you. If you're in where you're supposed to be, they'll come right to you.
And that is going to lead into a question that I'll ask you after we go through the positions. It's kind of like hey, when you're going into a bye week like this, maybe what are some of the things that you look at, because you and I talk about self-scouting and you take a look back at what you're doing. And I'll save that question for when we get there, but it ties right into what you just said. So yeah, you those last 2 runs, those were the only other ones I was going to mention before we get into the position groups, but you said it, the P-Rod run there a little bit later in the fourth quarter for 46, the Mixon run a little earlier in the fourth quarter for 21, both of them touchdowns. Both of them, if I remember correctly, just wide zone that, running back reads it, cuts, and the backside is no bueno. No bueno on the backside. So,
right.
and you just kind of detailed why maybe that's happening, why it's not good on the backside. So let's go ahead and go through these position groups, and then we can talk a little bit about that self scout and kind of bye week and what they might look like coming out of the bye week and moving forward through the rest of the season. So let's start with the defensive line. You mentioned Brandon Williams, couple tough plays for him that people kind of tweeted out on that P Ryan run in particular. But how do you think the D line played overall? Because to me, it's almost like a tale of two halves. Because that first half didn't look that bad to me. I mean, even that first quarter, man, they were getting after Joe Burrow and they were hitting him. He was getting the ball out. But how do you think D line played?
They played okay. You get out of the box in the first half. You're getting after him. You're sticking to game plan, which is you got to hit Joe. You got to hit him. You got to hit him. You're not gonna get him on the ground too often because he's gonna get rid of the ball. He's maturing as a quarterback. He understands where the ball needs to go. So it's all about physically impacting him where he eventually may come up short on the throw. So you're doing your job in the first half, and all of a sudden, no fault to theirs per se, the D line, the secondary let you die on the vine in literally in the first 4 minutes of the second half. Like it was the secondary just set you up for failure. So overall, they played okay. They played the run well, except for 2 big runs, which you can't have, but they do happen. But once again, you need help from your secondary and your linebackers, which is don't be a hero, get the man on the ground. The Piron run should have been a 20-yard gain, went for 46. Mixon, sure. Okay, I'll give you that one. But you gotta be stouter and you gotta get pressure, and we're just not getting that with 4 yet. I'm not sure if teams are scheming us up protection wise or something like that, but I think with the return of Wolf, you might get some more inside pressure that may help the outside pressure get home. So that'll be good. They'll be able to run more games inside because I think Wolf is very more adept with that. So I think the second half with the D line, I'm disappointed they could have played better, but I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Wolf coming back to the point you made about them probably being able to run maybe a little more games with him because of how well he sets those up. I think that could really be good for a guy like Owe to really free him up on some things. Because we remember when they signed Wolf, how Von Miller came out and said, hey, he probably deserves credit for half my sacks just because of the games that I was involved with him and how he really kind of set me up so that either I just was free and clean or, just, had a good angle or whatever. So that could be really good for a guy like Owe or for any there. I mean, for Houston, for any of their rush guys, to have somebody like that. Not that Campbell is not good at it either, because he is. I mean, when they're running those stunts, man, and they're running, when he's got to crash down inside and set that pick, I mean, you better watch your ribs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming full slab up in there. So watch out. But okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that they were okay. Started out well, like I said, at the end of that first half, looked like typical AFC North division game, 13-10 at halftime. And then, we saw what happened in the second half. Linebackers. Let's go to the linebackers. How do we think they played in this game? Obviously, there's a lot of talk out there since the Chargers game, really, that we were at. Beautiful game. Man, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I thought it was you. I was telling you, I'm so glad that we went to the Chargers game and not to the Bengals game. The result would have been very disappointing, but just everything about that, man, was just the weather was beautiful, good crowd, energy in the city was good, was positive. So that was just a cool time. But anyway, there's talk about Queen kind of playing fewer snaps at Mike since that Chargers game. Josh Bynes getting a little more burn. How do you think the linebackers played in this game?
I think they played well in the circumstances they were put in. I believe Queen doesn't have the dot right now. I think Bynes has the dot, which I think has helped his mind tremendously slow down and not have to process everything. I think they're starting to figure out what Harrison can do and what he brings. I think Bynes brings everything that you hope a veteran would bring to the middle of your defense, even though it got away from them in the second half, which once again I do not blame on the linebackers. Even the touchdown run for Piron, who am I going to blame when your D tackle's 7 yards down the field in your lap? I can't blame you for that. So I think Queen has had that moment, that light bulb moment, even in a bad game in terms of the overall defense. I personally think he had a light bulb moment, and I think he grew in that game. I think he's able to now he knows he's going to be in 1, 2, and 3 packages out of maybe 6 they have going into the game. So now his brain's like, I got 3 packages. Unless something happens to another person, then yes, he understands that stuff. But he knows I have these 3 packages that I'm doing. I know this stuff and all this other stuff. It has freed his mind up to just go run and play football. Having Bynes next to him is like literally having Moses next to you, just talking you through each and every play. Like, this is what you do. Don't jump that. Like, you have no idea having a linebacker next to you and you're going into a play and he says, remember the screen. And your mind just goes, oh, yeah, look at the down distance, 3rd and 8. Okay. In my brain, think screen, but get to my pass drop or whatever's going on. So just having him on the field, just saying those little things I'm sure he's saying is tremendously helping through everybody. And everybody's, once again, watch the film. It's never as bad as it is. It is never as good as it is. Take the good with the bad and the bad with the good. And understand that they're getting better. I actually think it was necessary that this happened. I think they needed to see it. I think they needed an entire explosion that it happened across the board. And people, right before the bye week, can kind of look at it and go, okay, let's reevaluate.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen other folks mentioning that too. Like, hey, obviously you don't ever want to give up that many points on defense, but you can learn. You can come out of this situation and learn some things. And I couldn't agree more about Queen, because I think some of the struggles that we had seen early on, not a physical thing.
No.
You know what I mean? It's not a physical thing. As you could tell, it was a mental thing, and having to process so much was, taking all of that athleticism and making it look less athletic, like slowing it down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think what you just said is an important point of, hey, kind of reducing the number of packages that he's in, maybe taking some of the call responsibility off his plate. So now, like you said, the picture goes from being like way out here and wide to way, narrowing it down a little bit more. And so now I can just play, I can just play fast.
And I would like to clear up anyone who is comparing Queen to Peanut. Please stop. Just stop it. Peanut cannot play dead in a Western movie. Let's. All he was good at is blitzing. That's all he was good at. So Mr. Queen is light years ahead of where that man was. He is progressing where he needs to be, and he will get better and better as the year goes on. He will have hiccups again. Don't get it twisted. He's going to have a little bit more hiccups, but they're not going to be the valleys that we saw at the end of last year and what we started to see at the beginning of this year. But even in the Colts game when he was kind of getting spun around like a top, you can kind of almost see in his mind that he was starting to realize, I can't live like this anymore. and that's like, it's at that moment in every football player's mind, you either get worse, you check out, or you go get better. He decided to go get better. He went in the lab and got better.
Yep. A guy who, if you go back to his time at LSU, had a similar process, was playing behind Devin White. Obviously, he was a very good linebacker when he first got on campus there at LSU. White goes to the NFL. That junior season that Queen comes out, and first couple of games, he's still not, starting, not playing as many snaps as he would like, and went to coaching staff and said, hey, what do I need to do? And, they told him, and they all sat down and got together on that, and he went to work. And then he ended up, basically becoming the starter as they went on that championship run down the stretch of the season. So not a guy who is, foreign. He's not a stranger to having to take a look in the mirror and saying, hey, I gotta change some things and get better. So I think you love to see that. I know you talk about all the time adversity, whether it's as a team, individual, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Football's full of it. I mean, every play, every even when the call comes in, trust me, sometimes you call comes in, you're like, really? We hadn't run this in weeks. Yeah. And your brain is spinning like, what do I do? Everybody looking at you like, you know what? We just go check out of this.
Hey, one of my favorite. I say it as a joke, but I think there's some element of truth of it. Hey, if we're all wrong, we're all right.
There you go. Exactly. That's what my defensive coach would say. That he's like, if you get the call and some of the guys in the huddle looking at you like you crazy, I don't care what you call. Call something that everybody knows in the huddle, and I'll just yell at you. You can just tell me the story.
Because if I'm thinking one thing and you're thinking another thing, there's going to be problems. But if we're both thinking the same thing, even if it's not the right thing, we'll probably be okay. We'll probably
be okay.
That play.
We gonna be okay. Yeah, just get them on the ground.
We'll be okay. Get them on the ground. That's it. Now, speaking of adversity, as we go to the secondary,
Lord help us all.
Look, anytime you have an individual guy on the opposing team in the pass catching group go for 200, it's not a good day. It's not a good day. And all 200 of that wasn't on Marlon. So, that's not where I'm going. I mean, he probably had about $150 of it, but all 200 of it was on him. But so the secondary, the DBs, not great, not a great day on some of those big plays. I was gonna phrase it the way I phrased the other groups. How do you think they played? I think I know how you think they play, but what are your thoughts on what you saw happening out there?
They did not play very well. But I will say this. The game plan wasn't the right game plan for what the Bengals ended up doing to them. If a team is running a bunch of in routes, you don't call cover one. You just can't, because you're gonna get murdered, and that's what happened. So, yes, I blame the corners. I blame the secondary for tackling and some technique issues. But I can honestly say that some of those calls put those guys in binds that a coach can't do to their players in that way. And I'm sure Wink will say that. I think that's why Marlowe came out and said after the game, I have to be better, because he knows in the moment he has to be better. But I think the coaches also know they have to put Humphrey in positions to be better, to make plays, and not continue to send zone blitzes knowing that they're not running out routes. They're running in routes and crushing you on 15 and 20-yard digs with no pressure. So, yes, the secondary played bad. Tackling was horrible. you know better. Humphrey, I know that ain't going to be everyday occurrence. I'm not worried. You're going to go back in the lab and do what you need to do. But as a collective group, defensive assistants, defensive coordinator, players, pass defense, we all have to get in a room and figure this out. Because you cannot be going into the second part of this season. Even if the weather's getting cold, those issues will still come back up. So you either fix it, or we're going to be sitting here, most likely in the divisional round again, wondering why we're getting torched for 360 yards with no pass rush. And everybody's going to be like, well, whoever said team is, well, Bengals came in here for the third time, and, well, you didn't fix the problem from the first time that happened.
Yeah.
So you either fix it, or if they get into the playoffs, which they probably will because there's just a lot of bad teams in the AFC, they're going to win the wild card game because this is what Baltimore does. They're going to run it down your throat and win a football game. But after that, your problems show up. I mean, you look at last year. Offensive line was always a problem.
Yeah. And
you had no passing game to get teams to get the back off of you. Well, guess what this year is all about? You can get teams to back up off you, but you can't run the ball to save your life. And now on defense, your run defense is rounding back into shape like we are used to here in Baltimore. But your pass defense has regressed majorly over the last year and a half. And the problems that you had at the end of last year, which were middle of the field throws, have not gotten better. It's gotten much worse. So at some point, you got to look at the scheme and not the players.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, for those who've been following us this year, keeping score at home, our little bet between Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Stevens. My guy had a rough day. Day out. After the Chargers game, where he made, some special plays, came back and, kind of struggled a little bit. But hey, he went out on Twitter and said it himself, it's about consistency. It ain't about just having one good game. It's about being consistent. So, head's in the right place. I'm not losing any faith because this is it. This is it, right? Coming out of this bye, week 8.
Coming out of this bye week. I will say this. We've seen stranger things happen in Baltimore after wild weeks. I mean, we saw an entire offensive system get thrown out the door in a week and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen quarterback changes that just make no sense, and all of a sudden it makes a whole bunch of sense.
Sure.
So they know, I will say this, they know defensively something has got to change.
Yeah. I'll say
And
I'm confident in where I sit on our bet, but I'm not comfortable. Confident, but
the
I'm not
bet,
comfortable.
I feel like they're going to keep Elliott in there because of stability. They need something they can hang their hat on.
Okay.
Now, if you want to get radical and what they call physical with it, you put Stevens in and maybe play more of a 4-2-5 type deal with Clark and Elliott hanging around the line of scrimmage more in like the Cardinals do,
Yeah.
and pressure more from there, knowing that you have more speed on the field to cover up any mistakes that you may have.
Yeah.
Going
Watching
off.
their defense a little bit tonight. They're fast, man. Cardinals
Woo! I
flying
think
around.
their issues are going to show up once teams realize that now you can run on them without
Yeah.
JJ Watt.
Yeah. That's for sure. Well, look, that's a good transition. The point that you're making about the defense and how at some point you got to take a look at scheme and not the players. Good transition into this little bye week discussion. So Ravens going into their bye week, they're going to come out of it at home against the Vikings. So doesn't get any easier. Another point that you hit on: Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook running the ball. Doesn't get any easier. And their defense is playing well too. Top 10. I think they're seventh right now in points allowed. Got to see Big Mike Pierce. Got to run in together. Got to
Playing
deal
very
with
well.
got to deal with him. Daniil Hunter coming off the edge rushing. Eric Kendricks at linebacker. Got some guys in the secondary. So yeah, it's gonna be a challenge coming out of the bye week. But so you're in your bye, and players are gonna get time off, obviously. But for the coaches, they're not really taking time off, are they? What are the coaches doing during this time? Where particularly on the defensive side of the ball?
I would say this if it was me as a coach, and we did it in college, if we had bye weeks, but you'd have practice. Well, they practice Tuesday and Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, and give the guys the rest of the day, rest of the time off. I don't want to see you until Tuesday. Like, I don't want to see you. Most guys will trickle back in the building Sunday night because they're going to be mad, which is the kind of response you're hoping for.
Yeah.
That some guys will kind of make their way into the building when you told them to go away. Yeah, you want to feel them, but some of those guys need to go away. As coaches, I'm taking the weekend and just not think about football. Just forget about it. Because if you keep thinking in the same mindset you just left, you're not going to solve any of the problems that are in front of you. So go away 48 hours. I want to see you till Sunday morning. Go in there with a fresh cup of coffee. Put on your cut up from the Oakland game. Look at your call sheets. Move them to the side and recall the game as you see it. Write all your stuff down and forget about what you see. Go back through it and kind of self-scout yourself and see where you could have made better calls, where you could have done this. What calls am I getting myself into that I'm calling all the time in certain situations? Because those are where you can identify where teams are starting to scheme you up. 3rd and 5, I'm always calling one or two things. If they look similar, I'm getting schemed up. That's why they're getting this playoff. So as a defensive coordinator, you're looking to see where you can stop tendencies and start new ones. But you don't want to get away from your bread and butter. But you also need to be able to recognize when you get too much in a groove and you got things in your box that you're always going to go to when you're in trouble. And teams know that. So the Bengals will set something up, it's like, whatever that might be, knowing that you're going to bring an overload blitz on 3rd and 7 And I know the flat is going to be open because that's the weak part of the defense. So can you switch it up? Can you 3rd and 7 now run maybe cover 2 and cover the flat? Just little things like that will be important to self-scout. And then position players and coaches, they're looking at individual players. What can they do better? What can we do to maximize what we have in front of us for the rest of the year? Because now you got to recapitulate, look, this is who we have. He's probably not going to get 10 or 20% better for the rest of the year. So how do we maximize this guy? Do we change the rotations? Do we do that? So a lot of that is going on in the background, but it's also checking you to make sure you're getting your tendencies, making sure that you're using your personnel right. Maybe we need to change this out. Put it all on the table and see where it lands. Sometimes you come out of those breaks and you are playing an entire defense that's different than what people have seen, but it's still structurally the same. You're just calling it in a different way, and people are like, oh, they've got reinventive. No, I just cleared my mind and decided to play the game backwards instead of trying to flow with it or whatever it might be.
Well, you answered my question in that whole explanation, so I don't even have to ask it now.
I talk too much.
No, that was it. That was exactly where I was going to ask, was like, hey, what are you what are you going to sort of look at and say, hey, it's almost like what we were saying about Queen. It's like, hey, how can I maybe kind of scale some of this back, and really just hone in on the stuff that we're doing well. Look at those tendencies, like you said, where it like maybe I'm getting a little bit too predictable, and kind of just, I don't want to say simplify, because I think sometimes that gets taken the wrong way. I mean, I'm fine with it because I think I understand, kind of what that looks like. But I think some people you hear,
you want them to play faster.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, simple means play faster. So I need guys to play faster. I need Queen to play faster. I need Chuck Clark to play faster. To me, as a coach, that means I got to simplify what I'm telling him to do on individual plays or even in the game plan. Because now he's only going to think about 20 things instead of the 40 things that I put in his brain all week.
Yeah. Like you were saying earlier, like where they're lining up to something and they get some kind of motion or something, and then, a guy makes a check, and now the other guy's like, all right, well, before that check, he was going to play it this way. Now he's going to play it that way. Now, how do I have to adjust? Hey, maybe we need to get away from some of that.
Yes.
And, just like you said, stay within our structure. And I think they have enough flexibility within their structure where they can say, hey, we can scale some of that stuff back. We can still, dial it up here and there where we think we need to. Like you said, if you're playing certain teams, maybe against the Lions, you can do more of that.
All right.
Even though that game was close. But yeah, overall, I think you nailed it with that explanation. Just, hey, look, let's play fast, right? Let's play fast, and let's try not to, set ourselves up with scheme, where we kind of are putting ourselves in a tough position because of our scheme.
Right.
We got good players, so let's let's try to let them be who they are and be able to maximize what they do well, and not set them up with scheme. So now that's it, man. You nailed it. That's exactly what I was going to ask. So, hey, perfect explanation. I don't have anything else. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
I'm good.
All right. Hey, good is good. I'm just going to tease it because I don't want to give too much away. But yeah, working on a little bye-week project. Hopefully going to have that out next week. Going to try to record our normal time frame and then put it out, the day after. So shooting for next Friday, I guess, for this to drop. But I'll give you a little hint. It's going to be defense focused. Shocker. It's going to be about a position that I know is near and dear to your heart. So people can probably figure that out. But yeah, we're going to try to put together a little something special for the people by request. And that's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. But until then, for myself, for Dennard, as always, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to download, like, tell a friend to tell a friend, as they say. Uh, and we will get at you next time. Y'all be good.